to Mental Attire, the Meaning series. Today we're discussing FOMO versus JOMO. I'm Cleopatra.
I'm Caitlin.
I'm Isaiah.
And I am Amy. So what do we have? FOMO versus JOMO.
So I think we'll I guess you probably know the first one, which is fear of missing out, but the second one is the joy of missing out, which when you say them next to each other, it's really funny. As you can tell by all of our grins, but that is what we're going to be talking about and our opinion on the two, I guess.
So what would you say are, if you would describe fears of missing out versus the joy of missing out, what does that mean to you when you hear it?
Um,
I think of like, what are you? This is mental attire. So what are you choosing to wear? Like, especially the thoughts that we put on. Are we wearing, the fear of missing out? Are we enjoying, missing out? And we mean that in a way of, you know, I think when you think of FOMO, fear of missing out, you think about comparison, and if you don't do something, you won't fit in or you'll look differently. But also, there's a joy to being set apart, and I guess that's a good starting point, or what I think of when I hear that.
I think maybe to play off of that, it makes uniqueness more um forthcoming. You feel more unique, and I mean this in a positive way of where when you're not worried about missing out on something and you're able to just be more present and happy and rooted where you are, even if you're actively pursuing something new or you're wanting to change things in your life, that doesn't mean that you can't be content and not worried about missing out while you're still actively pursuing things. Um, but I think it leaves more room for the uniqueness that God made you specifically to be, and leaves room for the gifts that you have to use for yourself, for the people around you, for your family. And so, in my opinion, when I think of the joy of missing out, I think of, I don't know how to put it into words. Um, the times that I felt like, oh no, I'm missing out on this. Maybe in that moment you feel like that, but then when you look back on it, you're like, oh, this was happening because then this was going to happen and it was even better than you could imagine at the time. You can't see that because you don't know that in the moment. So it's not that you'll never experience the fear of missing out or you'll worry if you're behind or whatever it is. But when you start realizing the joy of missing out and what could be a better opportunity that's going to come out of this, I feel like then you start to maybe understand it a little bit better and even be more just open to the possibilities.
And I think when you let go of the FOMO, let go of the FOMO. It sounded better in my head. It sounded like it was gonna rhyme better in my head. Um, but it opens up an avenue for you to be yourself, like your authentic, genuine self. I don't mean that in the cliche, like, oh, just be yourself and everything will be fine. But like what do you enjoy that is pleasing in God's eyes? Like for us, what we enjoy to do or watch or listen to is a lot different than the majority of society. So I feel like there's a whole different realm of whether it's hobbies or just activities or whatever it may be that you do that sets you apart from society and living a life more pleasing to God.
When I think of this, when I think of fears, when I have my fears going full play and I am fearing missing out a situation or with peoples or getting to do an activity or whatever it may be, I look, in the moment, I'm pretty much fearing it, false evidence appearing real. So it's temptations for me. It's maybe because I've been influenced by maybe unhealthier ways or temptations that take me down a path that isn't really going to be the best path that God has for me or us. And then on the flip side, the joy of missing out when I've stepped back and been able to pay attention and say, okay, this wouldn't be wise. I can acknowledge my fears, but it's not giving into those fears, and acting on my fears. It's okay to have fears. It's okay to be scared. It's okay to have fears of missing out. But when we act on them and we give into that, that's when the dangers approach. That's when we don't get to receive the joy of missing out, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and when you're fearing missing out, it's often like that thought in your head that if I don't show up or if I don't do this, I'm gonna be left out. I'm gonna miss out. But like Cleopatra was saying, sometimes I feel like it costs us our peace when we do try to, show up in those ways or I don't know, fear of missing out. If we try to maybe scroll and we see, oh, we could have a better life if we did this or but it drives us to, I feel like, busyness, not balance. We end up exhausted, actually, and distracted and disconnected, I think, from what matters most. And so I think when you think about the joy of missing out, it isn't about isolation, but it's about being intentional with your living, with your choices. It's choosing, having peace over being pressured, being quiet over the chaos. It's choosing that purpose over just maybe popularity or a temporal high, maybe.
Well, even like I've noticed in my writing, when if I'm not writing, when I say for myself, again, it's in that godly gifted way. But when I'm writing for other people, or like Caitlin said, for popularity or anything, you lose the connection to it. And this is just a personal example, but you lose that connection to it. And so you have the fear of missing out, but then you're still missing out because you never get completely filled up, because you always you're constantly living in this cycle of like fear, versus when you have the joy of missing out and you're really leaning into whatever gift that God has given you or multiple gifts, then you do have a certain kind of contentment that comes along with it. And like Mom said, it doesn't mean that you aren't going to have fears. We all have fears. It doesn't mean that you won't maybe question it at certain points or be like, I don't know if this is, like, I don't know where this is going or whatever. But if you're willing to try it and you're willing to have the joy or willing to try to experience the joy of missing out, then you could experience, or you could discover something that you didn't even know existed, which could be peace, it could be purpose, it could be, Caitlin mentioned a bunch of different things. It could be the quiet instead of the chaos. There's a lot of things that I feel like when we let go of this certain expectation that if you don't do it this specific way, like all these other people are doing, when you let go of that, it opens up a whole bunch of other doors, or even one meaningful door to do something that is going to have much more of a lasting impact on you, on your family, on the people around you. And I think that that's where the opportunity lies.
Well, you said some really good things, and one of them is the fear of being left out. I think that is huge. I think that's huge in families. I think that's huge in society, in any organization, in business, in schools, in any kind of groups or, anything out there. I think the fear of being left out, and due to scrolling, as you brought up, Caitlin, social media, everything, just constantly having access. Oh, they're doing this. Oh, I'm not getting to do that. I need to do that in order to feel like I am somebody or I belong. And it is a horrible feeling. It really is. It's and we're doing it so unconsciously. We're just soaking this up, and I think it's really sad. And you see the younger ages, and actually you see all ages though. But you said a few things. Each of you have said like balance, not busyness, peace over pressure. I would say also purity over pressure. And then you were talking about popularity, trends, the cycle of fear, quiet instead of chaos, the expectations. I think all of these are huge. And I think it also parents need to become more aware, so then they can train and teach and also be the example for their children and give more attention to this.
Mm-hmm.
Play. Are you gonna say something, Chloe?
Go ahead.
To play off of the fear of being left out, I feel like find joy in sharpening your axe. Of course, that's a figure of speech. But while others are out partying or gaming or what have you, like you're sharpening your axe, you're working away, you're chipping away at the old block. And in the end, you will come out, not, I don't say this in an arrogant way or a prideful way, but you will come out ahead of them naturally because you're not, wasting your life away doing meaningless activities. Just find joy in sharpening your axe. And yeah, I have a quote real quick from C.S. Lewis. Have fun even if it's not the same kind of fun everyone else is having. I think that's the one. I think that's the one I must say.
Yep. Yeah.
Yeah, actually, what you said, Isaiah, plays into what I was going to say of if you take inventory of the people around you, we're not going to even go to online because you don't know the entire story, so I don't think you can really do this. But you take the inventory of the people around you, so whether that's your family, your friends, whoever it is, the people, your coworkers, whoever you interact with, take the inventory of what you know of their life at least, and if it's family members or close friends, you're probably going to know more than it's just a stranger, And when you take that inventory, ask yourself, if I'm comparing myself to them, and then I look at their life, would I want my life to look like their life? If I'm not looking at just this one part of it, if I look at all these different parts, would I want to be like that person? Do I think they're a healthy role model? And if you do have people who are healthy role models, don't compare yourself to them or don't try to be like them. You can take whether it's habits or characteristics, adopt those in your own way and learn from them. So I don't think we're trying to dissuade anyone from learning from wise people, from even maybe looking at some of their habits and being like, this could be really helpful for me to incorporate into my life. It's not about that. It's about the unhealthy, the comparison, all of that. And when you start to take that inventory, you start to realize you're not missing out. And I think it just helps refine your character, like Isaiah was saying, of sharpening your own axe, taking the time to read 10 pages of this book that's going to help you instead of mindlessly scrolling, or go outside for just a few minutes instead of, I don't even know. I was going to say mindlessly scrolling again because that's the first thing that comes to mind. But just like, what can you do instead of doing mindless activities? And I think that that's going to make you start to realize that you're not missing out. When you usually fear you are, you're probably not. On the flip side of it, I feel like if you're not willing to take action steps, you're kind of just living in sloth mode, as Mom said, then I do think there is a healthy, I don't know if it's a fear of missing out necessarily, I wouldn't call it that, but I think there's a healthy awareness that everyone should have of I should or could be doing these things to make my life and the people around me, their lives better. So on the flip side of it, I do think that there should be an awareness of that. And again, I don't know if it's the fear of missing out, because I still don't think that necessarily has a positive connotation to it. But also take the time to look at yourself and say, am I taking the steps that will get me to where I want to be, or am I just kind of being complacent? Am I just kind of sitting idly, unwilling to do anything? And I think that's also something that people should kind of evaluate in their life.
Well, and when we embrace like the joy of missing out, like when we embrace joy And instead of maybe fearing what we are missing out on, we find freedom. And because missing out on some things means making room for the right things. And so missing out, like say with comparison, you're gaining confidence maybe in who God made you to be instead. Missing out on the noise, maybe you're gaining creativity and clarity instead. And so I think it's just understanding like you're choosing maybe those right things, embracing that, being excited about that, being joyful about that. Even scripture tells us to be renewed in our mind, and not conform to the world. And so we renew our minds when we kind of let go of just fearing on missing out and embrace, joy, maybe a joy-based mindset. We'll be a whole lot more joyful, a whole lot more at peace when we do embrace that.
Well, and creating versus comparing and competing, and one example of this would be dress, mental attire, how our attire, let's just go with clothing. That's, with the meaning series is, okay, what starts in our mind goes into our body and our life. That's how it goes. And if we're comparing and competing and we're giving into those fears, then Cleopatra had mentioned too, how we're dressing or what we're doing, then we're constantly living in that state of fear and we're giving into those fears. And like I said, we can have fears. It's okay to have fears. It's normal to have fears, but there's normal fears and there's abnormal fears. And the normal fears, we just have to face and the abnormal fears we need to become aware of. And we need to say, this is really doing a lot of harm and I better not act on this. We better not act on any of them, but I think we can't even decipher these days because people are living in a constant state of depression and anxiety. We get so worked up with it, and we don't even have time to stop and think.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think that's what I was trying to say. Of the normal fears are the ones that are going to push you to change in healthy ways. And so when you're willing to face those, then you do have the opportunity for that growth. And so it's not a matter of just shoving any and all fear completely out of your life, because I think that's really unhealthy. I think that naturally humans do have fears that come about just because it's in our nature, like you said. But when you're willing to act on them in a way of you're making positive and healthy changes in your life, then I think they can actually be really helpful for you, because it might be the only thing that pushes you to make those changes. If you're completely, I don't want to say content, because it is a good thing to be content with your life, but if you're completely, I don't even know what the right word for this would be.
If you're complacent.
Yeah. To where like you're so content that you don't think anything needs to change. I don't know. I think that might not be actually a good thing, because I think that we should constantly be growing. I think it's a good thing if you can find contentment in your life and not be so like anxious about everything and anxious about the future and missing out and all of that. I think that's a good thing. I do think that there should be some motivation to change, and it usually comes by way of fear or something like that. And I don't like necessarily wording it that way because I don't want it to scare people. But you can always, as we always say, take what you can and leave the rest.
And revisit when ready.
Yeah.
Something to
Anyway,
go ahead.
I just want to say a quick quote that goes really well with what she was saying. Failure isn't in fear, it's in inaction.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Delusive contentment refers to an illusory state of happiness or satisfaction that is based on false beliefs or unrealistic hopes. A concept also known as fool's paradise. It describes situations where us humans feel content but are unaware of underlying problems or dangers or illusions or deceptions in our lives. And I think that's where fool's paradise are false beliefs and our unrealistic hopes. It's the lies we tell ourselves and our self-talk. And what we're telling ourselves. Either we've learned it, we've been taught it, we've used it as coping or survival or whatever it may be. But that's where stopping and paying attention and saying, okay, is this a normal fear? Is this an abnormal fear? Because if it's abnormal, I really have to work through this. And it's a lot, but just know that this can happen. And so I think complacency, contentment, like Cleopatra said, can be a positive motivator. It can cause us to take action. Complacency is more on the negative side. We're sloth mode, and the abnormal fears are pretty much going to stall us, keep us stuck, or we move backwards. So, takeaway for today.
I feel like there's a lot that we said, so my takeaway would be to watch the video again. I think that, I guess, circling back to the whole main point of this video or this discussion, I guess, would be that it's okay to enjoy missing out on things that are not going to further you, that are not going to shape your character in godly ways, that are not going to get you closer to what you would like in your life. And I guess my action step from my takeaway would be to take that inventory of the people around you. Just even start with your family or your closest friends. Take the inventory of what their life looks like as far as what you know. And if you're comparing yourself to them, maybe be willing to say, I would like my life to not look identical to theirs, but I can appreciate them without comparing myself to them. And I think that goes for even the most healthy influences in our life. I can appreciate them and be grateful for them without comparing myself to them. And so I guess that would be kind of my takeaway, is to not, when you start to compare yourself to somebody, maybe reflect on something about yourself that is either really amazing or that you'd like to change, and put the effort into doing that instead of comparing yourself to those other people.
Well, and I would say, sometimes the best invitations, they don't they come from stillness and being still and choosing intentionality. Did I say that right? Yeah, I did. Okay. It didn't sound right coming off the lips, but choosing that instead of, social media comparison or just unhealthy habits that you may need to break yourself from. Stillness, sometimes the best invitations they come from being still and being intentional. And that's a mature choice on your part, and I would encourage it. Choose Be okay with missing out and choose the things that are going to bring you joy and peace.
Say, if it costs you your peace of mind, it's too expensive. I did not come up with that quote. It's on the inside tag of my Viore t-shirt. Ask mom about that.
Ladies' clothes
But
don't
no,
get those tags and great sayings. It's only the guys. He keeps saying, why don't you message Viore? I should make a note of that right now.
No, but I mean, it really is true. Because just if the cool guy at school has a Mustang and you have a Chevy, you shouldn't sell your Chevy to buy a Ford. Like, if you enjoy your Ford, don't worry about what he enjoys. Because the grass ain't always greener on the other side. I think we all know that quote too. But just take your time and consider what God would want you to do. In that case, that was just an analogy, but whether it's a life decision or work or whatever it is, think about what he would want you to do. Think about what your future self would want you to do, or maybe a respected mentor in your life. Think about what the choice they would make, as long as it's a healthy choice, of course. But yeah, I just want to say, take your time and think it through. I guess the moral of this whole video is don't worry about the fear of missing out.
I would say complacency delays what God has for us. So I have 3 things. Do quiet time. You can look at the video that we have under here describing to sit with God and listen and talk with God. Second thing would be create a list that you're thankful for. And just not, doesn't have to be perfect, doesn't have to be complete sentences, nothing. Just write down everybody, everything, anything that you are thankful for, and realize what you have. And the third thing is open the Bible and say, God, talk to me. Tell me what it is I need to know, and sit with that and do more quiet time. Now, if you don't want to do that, then we don't get to, what is that saying? I don't know if I have it written down here. Obedience is motion, motion is miracle. And when we do what brings about the benefits and I don't know if I want to say miracles, but the good experiences in life, then we get to, have that. So for today, we are thankful for you. We appreciate you. No one nor family shall do life alone, and take care.